Look at this video real quick. The story of the Oceanos. I wonder what this is about. Is it another spoopy thing? Let me see. By Bright Sun Films. Interesting. Okay. It was like a documentary, question mark? What is this about? Oh.
You just gotta drive it.
Off the coast of South Africa today, a dramatic and daring rescue at sea. Merchant vessels joined South Africa's Navy and Air Force to rescue the passengers and crew of a Greek cruise ship sinking in storm-lashed waters. All but about 20 of the 580 people who were aboard the vessel have now been accounted for. But as Richard Sergey reports, disturbing questions remain about how the ship got in trouble and how its crew responded to the emergency.
What's up, guys? My name is Jake. On the evening of August 3rd, 1991, the cruise ship the Oceanos began taking on water with over 500 people on board and a crew that had already abandoned ship. Today, I wanted to tell the remarkable story that you probably haven't heard
The
of.
crew abandoned the
One of the
ship?
most impressive maritime rescues ever conducted, and the ultimate sinking of the modern-day cruise liner. This is the story of the sinking of the Oceanos.
Oh, wow.
So the MTS Oceanos was a European passenger vessel built in 1952 under a different name. The ship went through many different owners throughout the years, and finally ended up with the Epirotiki Lines, a Greek shipping company founded in the mid-1800s. They took advantage of the growing cruise market in the 1970s and acquired the Oceanos. The company actually became the largest cruise line in the Eastern Mediterranean and Greece, acquiring all types of older passenger vessels. See, back then, the cruise industry was very different than how it operates today. Many of the up-and-coming cruise lines didn't have the capital or saw it as too much of a risk to build new vessels specifically for the line. So many companies had just purchased older ships, usually built in the 1950s and 60s, and
Well, there's already a very questionable thing or so of buying older things and not, updating them. I've never been on a cruise. My friends are getting married on one next year, and they invited me. I'm undecided.
refitted them for regular cruises. The Oceanos was no exception to this, making regular cruises out of South Africa by the late 80s and 90s.
Well, your problem is they bought 1950, 1960 ships and turned them into cruise ships, So there's your problem there already immediately.
The ship was only around 14,000 tons and able to hold a maximum of 550 passengers and 250 crew.
Okay.
She featured a dining room, several lounges and bars, a casino, and an open sun deck with swimming pool. Not exactly a large ship at all by today's standards, but at the time, that wasn't all that uncommon. The largest cruise ship in the world was Royal Caribbean's Monarch of the Seas at 73,000 tons, which compared to other ships carrying passengers for pleasure cruises,
Yeah, of course.
including the Oceanos, it was pretty enormous. While the Oceanos was still owned by the Epirotiki Lines, the vessel was being chartered on an 8-month contract by a company called TFC Tours. They were essentially just leasing the vessel for their own routine cruises out of the relatively untapped South African cruise market. However, there is a good reason for that specific market not being very utilized, as those waters are notoriously treacherous. However, in late July of 1991, the Oceanos was set to start her 7-night voyage from Durban, South Africa, to Cape Town, South Africa, then back. Around a 1,000-mile journey with 2 ports of call along the way.
So you're telling me that the waters are treacherous there and the boat itself is also old. So both in combination, well, you can take a good guess.
At the helm of the vessel was Captain Ioannis Ivranis, an officer of 20 years and the man in charge of delivering the vacationing passengers safely to port. Though, while the ship was seaworthy, TFC Tours had let the Oceanos fall under harsh decay. When passengers arrived to port, they described the vessel as looking rusted and not very well maintained.
Well, totally does not spell disaster whatsoever. Oh yeah, look, the boat's kind of rusty, but who knows? Maybe it'll still run great, you know?
On August 3rd, 1991, the vessel was nearing the end of its 7-day cruise with its last stop in East London, South Africa. The vessel took on more passengers for a single-night cruise as the Oceanos was beginning to complete the last leg of their journey back to Durban. Though that afternoon, the winds began to pick up, and the ocean just offshore began whipping up a strong
The
gale.
foreshadowing is
Like I
definitely
mentioned earlier,
real.
this part of Africa is well known for its weather. The ship was scheduled to travel through the Transeski coastline, nicknamed the Wild Coast for its freak and sometimes violent weather. This ended up delaying the Oceanos for a few hours that afternoon, and as winds continued to pick up, the vessel just couldn't leave port. However, by the command of Captain Avranus, the Oceanos headed out to sea despite the weather to keep schedule.
Are you
Now with
serious?
571 people on board. Usually a sail-away party would be held on deck, however due to the weather, a party was held inside the main lounge. Moss Hills, a guitarist on board, said, quote, "It was a great success in spite of the weather. We got passengers to dance and sing, telling them that we would provide the rock and the ship would provide the roll."
Going in
As
a
dusk
stormy
approaches that
weather.
evening,
What a
passengers made their way
fantastic
to the main dining
fucking.
room.
Ugh.
However, by now, the Oceanos was encountering very rough 40-knot winds and up to 30-foot swells.
Yeah, I wonder fucking
Passengers
why.
described the scene inside the main dining room as a tad chaotic, with plates and glasses shifting around their tables, and staff struggling to keep balance.
You know, there is that song or so that says dumb ways to die. This is pretty much that fits that basically calling because the stupid captain decided to fucking, instead of waiting for the fucking weather to pass by, you have fucking this happening instead.
The swells outside were tossing the 500-foot vessel side to side, seemingly becoming even more violent. Meanwhile, below deck, in the bulkheads, the scene unfolding would instantly change the fate.
Oh, goodness gracious me.
Earlier that day, repairs had been performed on the ship's water disposal system. A very important pipe that directly intakes seawater within the vessel had its vital non-return valve not fully replaced. It's believed that after a series of freak waves slamming against the ship, the pipe's shell plating had burst open, spilling seawater, and began filling the compartment. Eventually, that water, going unnoticed, had reached the ship's main propulsion engines and caused an explosion. The Oceanos immediately lost power and propulsion from her two main propellers. Upstairs in the main lounge, performers had been entertaining passengers just as the main engine exploded.
Wow.
A guest had actually been videotaping the show at the same moment the Oceanos lost power, and you can hear the loud thud in the video from below deck.
I want you to imagine, if you can, a long and
Immediately, cruise director Lorraine Betts rushed upstairs to find out what was happening from the ship's officers. By now, Captain Avranus had assessed the damage below and knew the 14,000-ton, powerless vessel was in trouble. With room for 594 people in her 6 lifeboats, the Oceanos certainly had enough room to save everyone on board.
Okay.
However, with the rough ocean and the vessel beginning to ever so slightly list, time was at the essence. When Lorraine got to the bridge, Captain Avranus was described to be in shock, as the crew and officers were in a panic, sending out distress calls. As passengers waited patiently in the dark lounge, terrified as to what happened, Moss Hills and a few other entertainers had continued to sing songs and interact with the passengers, an effort to keep everyone calm. Not too long after, the ship's lifeboats were beginning to be lowered for boarding. However, not by passengers, but by crew. In fact, passengers and entertainment staff were told that there was just a problem in the engine room, and that there may be a chance they would need to abandon ship. So as passengers put on their life vests, the crew were seen running to and from their cabins, throwing personal items and suitcases in the lifeboats, just before lowering away, which had very few actual passengers aboard. The captain assured everyone that the ship was not sinking, so Moss Hills and fellow entertainer Julian Butler traveled down below decks to find out for themselves. And what they found was alarming. Water had been pouring in and sloshing around on the lower decks. By this time, over 500 passengers were on board the Oceanos, and still no alarm or announcement had been sounded to abandon ship.
Oh my, excuse me? No warning, no nothing. The crew said, "Bye, bitches. I'm gone." Are you fucking? Oh my goodness gracious me, dude. Whatever happened to, what literally happened to like the captain stays with its ship and everything? What happened to that saying, huh? Jesus fucking Christ.
By midnight, the vessel was in serious trouble, and with hundreds of passengers awaiting some official to direct them as to what to do to evacuate, no such person appeared.
Are you
It eventually came to the
serious?
ship's entertainment staff to take charge of the rescue and group passengers and place them in lifeboats. So one by one, each lifeboat filled with at least a capacity of 99 passengers were lowered down into the rough, pitch-black ocean.
Oh
By the
my.
early morning hours of August 4th, hundreds of passengers had been lowered down on several different lifeboats until a serious problem came. By this time, the Oceanos had been listing so heavily on its starboard side that launching or loading lifeboats became impossible. Since the crew had taken off with nearly half-empty boats, there was not enough seats in the remaining boats for everyone.
Oh my god, you can't be serious with me. Oh my. Oh my god, bro. Are you joking with this shit, man? Oh my lord. Hey, Marshmallow.
And now, with over 220 people still aboard the slowly sinking vessel, there was nothing to do but call for help. Moss Hills and Julian Butler had made their way up to the ship's bridge to assess the situation with the captain. The only problem was
There is no captain.
the captain wasn't there.
Exactly.
He was actually still on the ship,
Oh.
seen here grasping to the pool deck staircase, completely uninvolved. Actually, the only reason he was still on the ship was because he was caught boarding a lifeboat earlier, and the entertainment staff had pulled him back on board.
Are you serious? Man was trying to fucking flee like a roach, and they caught his ass and brought his fucking ass back on the ship. He's like, "Nah, bitch, if we're going down with the ship, you're coming with us as well." Unfucking believable, dude. I can't believe what I'm hearing, dude. This is crazy.
In fact, almost all of the officers had escaped, and the two entertainers found the cruise ship's bridge deserted. So it became entirely up to them to basically save everyone on board by making distress calls to whoever would answer.
Are
Luckily,
you
they were able to reach several ships in the area, and later learned that the South African Air Force set up a multi-helicopter rescue.
Oh, thank fucking God, to be honest. Holy shit, dude. Did they rescue a lot of them? Question mark.
6 a.m., all of the passengers were moved out onto the open decks, awaiting for the helicopter rescue. And after around 4 hours of waiting in complete darkness, the choppers finally came,
Oof.
efficiently running 2 different airlifts simultaneously, each carrying around 20 passengers. Once they were full, they would fly the 3 miles back to shore where they would unload and refuel at the staging area. They would then fly back and repeat. And over the course of a few hours, unbelievably, every single person was off the Oceanos and had been successfully rescued via helicopter and inflatable boats.
Oh, thank fucking God. Holy shit. That is a successful fucking rescue, to be honest.
All 571 people. And after what seemed like just moments, the listing of the sinking ship worsened as waves washed over the starboard bow.
Damn,
Then it didn't
dude.
take long for the flooding to accelerate. Soon, and incredibly all captured on video, the 500-foot, 7-story vessel became swallowed by the ocean. Then finally, at around 3:30 p.m. on August 4th, nearly 19 hours after
Yeah, because you're not supposed to be on the boat if it's sinking like this, right? Because the water, when it's going down or so, it'll drag you. The force is so strong that it'll drag you down into the water as well. So you're supposed to jump before it like reaches to like this point.
flooding began, the Oceanos finally went under. At the staging ground on the shores of South Africa, passengers were reunited and the entertainment staff were regarded as heroes,
Oof.
which they were. As for Captain Arvanas, actually, he was one of the first to be airlifted off the sinking ship. And later on the ground, well, he had this to say.
When I order abandon the ship, doesn't matter what time I leave. Abandonment is for everybody. If some people they like to stay, they can stay.
His reasoning
What the
was that he
fuck?
would be better suited to coordinate the rescue from the shore. Remind you of anyone? The captain was actually defended by the cruise line, saying passengers misunderstood the crew procedures, saying, quotes, "As regards to the captain abandoning the vessel, this is untrue, and he has maintained his position throughout in assisting the rescue in the most effective way."
Okay. Okay. Right. Right. Oh my fucking god, dude. Unfucking believable of what I'm listening to.
You know, looking over the footage again, it looks like he was an integral part of the rescue. Oh wait, no, he's actually just standing there lifeless. Thankfully, Greek Board of Inquiry found Captain Arvanis and 4 other officers guilty, though there are conflicting
good.
stories as to what actually happened to him. Anyways, as for Epirotiki Lines, well, they were merged with another shipping company and had gone bankrupt in the early 2000s. Now looking at all of it as a whole, the actual cause of the sinking was honestly one of the best possible scenarios, since the rate of water entering the vessel was very minimal. If the leak had been more severe and the Oceanos only had a few hours afloat in the middle of the night during a harsh storm, the end result could have been much more catastrophic. But this
lucky as hell that it was not a big problem or a situation. It was just very minimal.
miracle has always fascinated me. The incredible images of a somewhat modern cruise ship sinking into the ocean and not a single life was lost is absolutely unbelievable.
That is crazy.
And now looking into it further, it's hard to even believe the astonishing task these entertainers and rescue crews were faced with, having the lives of hundreds of scared passengers aboard a sinking ship during a storm all in their hands. But thanks to the selfless individuals of the people coordinating and performing the air rescue, the actual crew, staff, and passengers aboard the Oceanos, as well as the ships in the area coming to the aid, the story of the Oceanos remains to be one of the most incredible rescue operations at sea.
Wow, that's crazy.
I'd like to thank
NordVPN. Anyways, that's pretty crazy, I'll be honest with you. Was definitely not expecting it. That's crazy. So you can still see the ship itself underwater. That's wild, honestly. The story of the Oceanos. What an interesting video, to be honest. This was like 6 years ago that was uploaded. Right Sun Films. That captain, though, if people wanted to stay, they can stay on a sinking ship, question mark. That moment when your cruise ship magician do a better job at helping out than your own captain. The captain, psst, hey kid, you wanna wear the captain's hat? The captain says if the passengers want to stay, yes, I'm sure they are having a blast and don't want to leave. Dude, that's wild. That's crazy. I never knew the saying or so. What happened to the captain sinking with their ship or so to help everybody else? But I guess that thing must have died during the pirate era, I guess, you know? The crew who abandoned the ship while telling everyone that everything is okay should have been charged with 500 counts of attempted murder. True. True. That is so true. Anyways, that's the end of the video. And, peace.